I first saw him through a veil of exhaustion, my vision blurred by the kind of bone-deep fatigue only single mothers truly understand. The restaurant was closing. My feet ached in ways I couldn't even describe anymore, and the wallet sat heavy in my apron pocket. Thick black leather that smelled faintly of expensive cologne and whispered of a life I'd never know. I wasn't supposed to be working the VIP section tonight. My regular tables were in the back corner of Valentino's, where tips were modest but steady. But Mia had called in sick, and Mr. Rossi had practically begged me to cover. "Please, Emma, only you handle these clients right," he'd said, his Italian accent thickening with stress. What he meant was that only I wouldn't flirt back or get flustered when rich men made inappropriate comments. 6 years of raising my daughter alone had burned away any patience for games. The wallet had slipped from his suit jacket when he stood to leave. I noticed it immediately. How could I not? The leather alone probably cost more than a month of my rent, but by the time I'd reached down to retrieve it, he was already gone, his security detail flanking him like shadows. The restaurant had fallen silent as he passed through, conversations dimming like someone had turned down the volume on the world. "Who was that?" I'd whispered to Carlos, the bartender who knew everything about everyone. "That?" Carlos had gone pale, wiping the same spot on the bar for the third time. "That's Dante Salvatore, and if you value your sanity, you'll pretend you never saw him." Now, hours later, I stared at the business card I'd found inside the wallet. No title, just a name and a number embossed in matte black on heavy stock. The rest of the contents were equally minimalist but staggering. Several thousand in cash, a single platinum credit card and a photo. Just one. A small, worn picture of a woman with sad eyes. Not what I expected to find in a man's wallet. No ID, no driver's license, nothing to prove he existed at all. My tiny apartment was quiet, except for the soft whir of the ancient window unit struggling against the July heat and the occasional creak from the bedroom where Lily slept. My 5-year-old daughter was the only good thing to come from the nightmare of my marriage to Rick, who had vanished the moment I'd told him I was pregnant. Last I heard, he was somewhere in Arizona with his new family, conveniently forgetting the child support he never paid. I turned the wallet over in my hands again. The right thing to do was call the number, return it, move on. The emergency room bill on my kitchen table, the result of Lily's asthma attack last month, screamed at me from beneath a final notice stamp. The cash in this wallet could make that disappear. It could pay for Lily's medication for months. I pushed the thought away immediately, disgusted with myself. I wasn't a thief. Tired, desperate, and afraid sometimes, yes, but not a thief. My fingers trembled as I dialed the number, the burner phone I used to save money feeling especially cheap against my ear. It rang only once. "Identify yourself." The male voice was cold, clipped. My voice caught. "My name is Emma Reeves. I'm a waitress at Valentino's. I found Mr. Salvatore's wallet tonight and wanted to return it." Silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Address. Not a question. A command. "I can bring it to him tomorrow, or back to the restaurant," I offered quickly. "I don't need anyone to—" "Your address, Ms. Reeves." Something in his tone made my skin prickle. I gave him my address, immediately regretting it as the words left my lips. 20 minutes. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my heart thundering against my ribs. 20 minutes. I glanced down at my uniform, wrinkled, with a small tomato sauce stain near the hem, and rushed to change. I pulled on jeans and a clean t-shirt, ran a brush through my unruly brown hair, and dabbed concealer under my eyes where dark circles had taken up permanent residence. Why was I primping to return a wallet? This wasn't a date. This was a transaction. I needed to give this man his property, and send him on his way before he could look too closely at our lives. At the second-hand furniture, the water stain on the ceiling, the photos of Lily without a father in sight. Our precarious existence felt like a house of cards that could collapse under the weight of a stranger's gaze. 18 minutes later, I heard it. The subtle shift in the night sounds outside my window. The street was never truly quiet. Not in this part of town. But suddenly the ambient noise changed. Car doors opening and closing with soft, expensive thuds, murmured voices, the unmistakable sense of being watched. My doorbell never rang. Instead, 3 precise knocks echoed through the apartment. I opened the door, wallet clutched in my hand like a shield, and there he was. Dante Salvatore filled the doorframe in a way that had nothing to do with his physical size. Though he was tall, broad-shouldered, his presence seemed to expand beyond the confines of his body. His suit was different from earlier, now a deep charcoal rather than black, but no less impeccable. His face was all angles and shadows. High cheekbones, strong jaw darkened with precisely maintained stubble, and eyes so dark they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Those eyes fixed on me now, unreadable and intense. Ms. Reeves. His voice was deep, with the barest hint of an accent I couldn't place. Mr. Salvatore. I extended the wallet toward him, desperate to complete this exchange and close my door. I found this after you left tonight. He didn't reach for it immediately. Instead, his gaze moved past me, scanning my apartment in one sweeping glance that seemed to catalog every detail. You live here alone? He asked. My heart stuttered. That's not... A small voice interrupted from behind me. Mommy? Lily stood in the hallway, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest, hair mussed from sleep. Her eyes widened at the sight of the stranger, and she took an instinctive step back. Go back to bed, sweetie, I said, trying to keep my voice light. Everything's fine. Dante's expression changed so subtly I almost missed it. A slight softening around the eyes, a barely perceptible shift in his stance. Your daughter, he said. Not a question. Yes. I stepped slightly to block his view of her. I'm sorry we woke you, Lily. This man just needed to pick something up. Go back to sleep, okay? She hesitated, her eyes fixed not on me, but on Dante. Then, to my surprise, she stepped forward instead of retreating. Are you a friend of my mom's? She asked him, her voice small but curious. Before I could intervene, Dante knelt down to her level, a smooth, deliberate movement that somehow made him seem no less powerful. Your mother did me a favor tonight. She found something important to me and kept it safe. Lily nodded solemnly. She's good at finding things. She always finds my rabbit when I lose him. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. That's a valuable skill. He reached into his jacket and produced a small, pristine origami flower. May I thank her by giving you this? My breath caught. Where had that come from? His hands had moved so quickly I'd missed the actual folding, if that's what had happened. Lily's face lit up as she carefully took the paper flower. Thank you. It's so pretty. Lily, I said gently but firmly, say good night now. It's very late. She clutched her new treasure and nodded. Good night, Mr. Dante, he said. You can call me Dante. Good night, Mr. Dante. She gave a little wave and padded back to her bedroom, throwing one curious glance over her shoulder before disappearing around the corner. When Dante rose to his full height again, his eyes had changed. Something calculating had entered them. Something that made my instincts scream danger. Your daughter is lovely, he said, finally taking the wallet from my outstretched hand. You raise her alone? That's not really your concern, I replied, trying to sound confident rather than rude. No, he agreed, his gaze still too penetrating. But many things concern me that shouldn't, Ms. Reeves. He opened the wallet, his long fingers moving with deliberate precision as he checked the contents. I felt heat rise to my cheeks. It's all there, I said, unable to keep the edge from my voice. I didn't take anything. I know. He snapped the wallet closed and slipped it inside his jacket. Then he reached back in and withdrew an envelope. For your honesty. I stared at the envelope but didn't take it. That's not necessary. Anyone would have returned it. His low laugh contained no humor. We both know that's not true, Emma. My first name in his mouth felt like an invasion, intimate in a way that made my skin prickle. Please, I said, taking a step back. I don't want anything. I just did what was right. And that, he said, is precisely why you deserve this. He placed the envelope on my small entry table. For your daughter's medical bills. My blood ran cold. How do you... The prescription bottles on your counter, the insurance paperwork visible from here. His eyes never left mine. I notice things, Emma. It's how I've survived. Outside in the hallway, a man cleared his throat, a subtle reminder that we weren't alone. Dante's security hovered just out of sight. "Thank you for your time," Dante said, stepping back. "Your integrity is unexpected." Is that supposed to be a compliment? The words escaped before I could stop them. For the first time, a genuine smile touched his face, transforming it entirely. "Yes, the rarest kind." He turned to leave, but paused. "The hospital on your bill? St. Mary's? Dr. Abramson is the best pediatric pulmonologist there. Tell him Dante Salvatore referred you. Your daughter will receive excellent care." With that, he was gone, his footsteps nearly silent on the worn carpet of the hallway. I closed the door and leaned against it, my heart racing, the envelope untouched on the table. How had a simple good deed turned into whatever this was? I finally forced myself to pick up the envelope, expecting perhaps $100. A generous tip, but nothing life-changing. When I saw the contents, my knees buckled. $10,000 in crisp $100 bills. And beneath them, a business card. Not the minimalist one from the wallet, but one for Dr. Abramson at St. Mary's, with a private number handwritten on the back. I sank to the floor, envelope clutched in my trembling hands, certain of only one thing. My life had just veered wildly off course, and I had no idea where this new path would lead. The next morning felt surreal, as if the events of the previous night had been a vivid dream. But the envelope hidden in my underwear drawer confirmed the reality. Dante Salvatore had stood in my apartment, spoken to my daughter, and left me with enough money to clear my most pressing debts. I dropped Lily off at Mrs. Hernandez's apartment downstairs, our regular childcare arrangement when I worked the morning shift. The elderly woman adored Lily, and her rates were the only ones I could afford. As I handed over Lily's inhaler and emergency contact information, the same routine every day, I felt a strange urge to confess about the mysterious man who had appeared at our door last night. But what would I say? That a man who made Carlos the bartender go pale had given my daughter an origami flower, and me an envelope full of cash. "You look tired, mija," Mrs. Hernandez said, her weathered hand touching my cheek. "More than usual." "Late night," I replied, forcing a smile. "Extra shift." "You work too hard." She shook her head, the same gentle admonishment she'd been giving me for years, just until things get better. My standard response, though better, remained a distant, almost mythical concept. The restaurant was quiet when I arrived, still hours from opening for lunch service. I found Mr. Rossi in his small office, glasses perched on his nose as he frowned at invoices. "Emma," he looked up, clearly surprised. "You're not scheduled until 4. "I know. I hesitated, unsure how to frame my question. "The man who sat at table 9 last night. Mr. Salvatore. I was wondering what you know about him." Mr. Rossi's expression changed instantly, shudders coming down over his usually warm eyes. He removed his glasses, polishing them methodically with his handkerchief. "Why do you ask?" His voice was carefully neutral. "He left his wallet. I returned it." The cloth stilled on the lens. "You went to him?" "No, he came to my apartment. Mr. Rossi put his glasses back on and leaned forward, lowering his voice though no one else was there to hear. "Listen to me, Emma. Dante Salvatore is not someone you want in your life. He owns half the businesses in this part of the city, legitimate and otherwise. People who cross him disappear." "He didn't seem dangerous," I said, immediately recognizing the lie. Everything about Dante had radiated danger. The most dangerous predators rarely do. Mr. Rossi sighed. "You're a good girl, Emma. Smart, hard-working. You keep your head down. Keep it that way." I nodded, throat dry. "He mentioned a doctor for Lily's asthma. Said to use his name." Mr. Rossi's eyebrows shot up. "And will you?" "I don't know." The truth was, I'd spent half the night debating this very question. Lily needed better care than I could currently afford, but accepting Dante's help felt like stepping onto a tightrope with no safety net. "Just be careful," Mr. Rossi said finally. "Salvatore doesn't do favors without expecting something in return." I left the restaurant more unsettled than when I'd arrived. On impulse, I pulled out my phone and dialed the number on Dr. Abramson's card. His receptionist answered, professionally brisk. "I'd like to make an appointment for my daughter," I said, voice steadier than I felt. "Lily Reeves. She has chronic asthma." "I'm sorry." But Dr. Abramson isn't accepting new patients at this time. Perhaps in 3 months? Dante Salvatore referred me. The name felt foreign on my tongue, a beat of silence. 1 moment, please. The hold music played for less than 30 seconds before the receptionist returned. Her tone transformed. Ms. Reeves, we had a cancellation this afternoon at 2. Would that work for you? My shift started at 4. It would be tight, but manageable. Yes, that's fine. Excellent. And please, tell Mr. Salvatore that Dr. Abramson sends his regards. The call ended, and I stood frozen on the sidewalk, people flowing around me like water around a stone. What kind of influence did this man have? And more importantly, what would it cost me? I spent the rest of the morning paying bills. The emergency room debt, Lily's overdue tuition at the preschool, our utilities on the brink of disconnection. Even after clearing everything, including a month's advance on rent, I still had over half of Dante's money left. I hid it away, unable to shake the feeling it was somehow tainted. At 1:30, I collected Lily from Mrs. Hernandez and caught the bus across town to St. Mary's Hospital. The difference between the pediatric wing and the emergency room where we usually ended up was stark. Soft lighting, colorful murals, and staff who weren't running on empty. The receptionist looked up when we approached. Lily Reeves? I nodded, surprised to be recognized immediately. Dr. Abramson is ready for you. This way, please. No waiting room. No forms to fill out. Just immediate attention, as if we were VIPs. Dr. Abramson was a tall man with kind eyes and a gentle manner that immediately put Lily at ease. He spent 45 minutes with us, reviewing her history, conducting tests, and explaining treatment options I'd never heard about from our clinic doctor. She needs a different inhaler regimen, he said, writing a prescription, and possibly this new medication. It's quite effective, though still in limited release. Is it covered by insurance? I asked reflexively. He glanced at me over his glasses. Everything will be taken care of, Ms. Reeves. By who? I pressed. I believe that's been arranged. His tone was final, professional. Lily is a delightful child. I'd like to see her again next week to monitor how she's responding to the new treatment. Before we left, the nurse handed me a bag containing not only Lily's new prescriptions, but also a small stuffed dragon wearing a doctor's coat. Dr. Abramson thought Lily might like this, she explained with a wink at my wide-eyed daughter. As we waited for the bus home, Lily clutched her new toy, chattering happily about the dragon doctor, who would make her feel better. I checked the time. 3:40. I'd never make it to my shift. I called the restaurant. Mr. Rossi, I'm so sorry. I'm at the hospital with Lily, not an emergency, I added quickly. Just a doctor's appointment that ran long. Don't worry about it, he replied, surprising me. Carlos can cover. Take care of your little one. Disconnecting, I stared at the phone in confusion. Mr. Rossi never gave shifts away that easily. Something wasn't right. My unease deepened when we arrived home to find a sleek black car parked outside our building. The driver, a broad-shouldered man with a close-cropped haircut, straightened when he saw us. Ms. Reeves. He nodded politely. Mr. Salvatore would like to speak with you. Lily tugged at my hand. Is that Mr. Dante's friend? The man's impassive expression softened fractionally at Lily's question. That's right, little miss. I'm Marco. I can't just leave, I protested. I have my daughter with me. Mr. Salvatore anticipated that. Marco opened the car door to reveal a booster seat installed in the back. He's invited both of you. Every warning bell in my head was ringing. Where exactly does he want to meet? His home, for dinner. Marco checked his watch. He's expecting you in 30 minutes, and if I say no? The question slipped out, more defiant than I felt. Marco's expression didn't change. It wasn't presented as an invitation you could decline, ma'am. The implied threat hung in the air between us. I looked down at Lily, who was staring at the luxury car with undisguised fascination. Can we ride in the fancy car, Mommy, please? I hesitated, then nodded tightly. Let me get changed first. Upstairs, I threw on the only dress I owned that wasn't completely worn out, a simple navy blue wrap dress I'd bought secondhand for job interviews. I applied minimal makeup, twisted my hair into a neat bun, and tried to ignore the hammering of my heart. You look pretty, Mommy. Lily said when I emerged from the bathroom. Thank you, sweetheart. I knelt to her level. We're going to meet the man from last night. The one who gave you the paper flower, remember? She nodded enthusiastically. Mr. Dante. Is he your new friend? No, honey. He's someone who helped us. But I need you to be on your very best behavior, okay? And if at any point you feel scared or want to leave, you squeeze my hand 3 times. That'll be our secret signal. Like a spy code? Her eyes widened with delight. Exactly like a spy code. I forced a smile, hoping my anxiety wasn't visible to her 5-year-old eyes. Now, let's go. Marco drove us through neighborhoods that grew progressively more upscale, finally turning onto a private drive that wound through wrought iron gates and manicured grounds. The house, more accurately, mansion, at the end of the drive was a modernist structure of glass and stone, imposing yet somehow elegant. Wow, Lily breathed. Is this a castle? Something like that, I murmured, my mouth dry. As the car pulled to a stop, the front door opened. Dante stepped out, no longer in a suit, but casually dressed in dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that looked more expensive than my entire wardrobe. The change in attire did nothing to diminish his commanding presence. You came. He approached as Marco opened our door, his eyes moving from me to Lily and back again. You didn't leave much choice, I replied quietly. A small smile touched his lips. Yet you still had one, Emma. You always do. Before I could respond, Lily scrambled out of the car, her new dragon clutched tightly in one hand. Hi, Mr. Dante. We came to your castle. Dante knelt to her level, just as he had in our apartment. Hello, Lily. I see you've brought a friend. This is Dr. Dragon. He's going to help me breathe better. She held up the stuffed toy proudly. The real doctor gave him to me today. Dr. Abramson has excellent taste in dragons. Dante's voice was gentle with her in a way I hadn't heard before. He looked up at me. I'm pleased you made the appointment. The doctor who's usually booked months in advance, who miraculously had time for us today, who wouldn't discuss payment. I kept my voice low, out of Lily's earshot. What exactly are you playing at, Mr. Salvatore? He rose to his feet, his dark eyes intent on mine. I don't play, Emma, and please, call me Dante. Fine, Dante. What do you want from us? Right now, I want to offer you dinner. He gestured toward the house. After that, we'll discuss possibilities. A shiver ran down my spine at his phrasing. Possibilities. The word hung between us, loaded with implications I couldn't, or wouldn't, decipher. Lily had already started up the steps, entranced by the house. I hurried after her, aware of Dante's gaze following our movements. Inside, the home was a study in understated luxury, open spaces, museum-quality art, and furnishings that looked both beautiful and untouched. Not a home so much as a display of power. Valentina will look after Lily while we talk, Dante said, as an elegant older woman approached. She's prepared a children's movie room with popcorn and juice. I want to stay with my mom, Lily said immediately, pressing against my leg. I was about to agree when Dante spoke. The room has a fish tank that goes from floor to ceiling, with sharks. Lily's eyes widened. Real sharks? Small ones. Dante's mouth quirked. And very colorful fish. Can I go see Mommy? Please? I hesitated, looking at Valentina, who smiled reassuringly. I raised Mr. Salvatore from a boy, she said, her accent thick but warm. Your daughter is safe with me. The revelation that this woman had raised Dante was so unexpected, it momentarily silenced my objections. I nodded reluctantly, and Lily happily took Valentina's outstretched hand. Before they disappeared down the hallway, I caught Lily's eye. Remember our code? She nodded solemnly, then broke into a grin as she skipped away with Valentina. You're protective, Dante observed once we were alone. She's all I have. I met his gaze directly. And I still don't understand why we're here. Instead of answering, he guided me through the house to a terrace overlooking the grounds, where a table was set for an intimate dinner. The city sprawled in the distance, beginning to twinkle with evening lights. Please sit. He pulled out a chair, the gesture unexpectedly old-fashioned. I sat, acutely aware of his proximity as he took the seat across from me. A server appeared silently, pouring wine and disappearing just as quickly. "Why am I here, Dante?" I asked again, leaving the wine untouched. He studied me for a long moment. "Because you intrigue me. I'm a waitress and a single mom. There's nothing intriguing about that." "On the contrary." He leaned forward slightly. "When presented with a wallet full of cash and no witnesses, you returned it intact. When offered money for your honesty, you refused it. When given a doctor's name that could help your daughter, you hesitated. Your instincts are unusual." I felt exposed under his scrutiny. "My instincts are telling me to take my daughter and leave right now. Yet, here you sit." He picked up his wine glass, his movements fluid and controlled. "Tell me about Lily's father." The abrupt change of subject caught me off guard. "He's not in the picture. That much is obvious. I want to know why." "That's personal. I've made your daughter's medical care my personal concern. I believe that earns me some candor." Anger flashed through me. "I didn't ask for your help, yet you accepted it." His gaze was unwavering. "The father, Emma." Something in his tone made it clear he would keep pushing until I answered. "Rick left when I told him I was pregnant. Blocked my number, moved states, started a new family. He sends a birthday card some years with $20 inside. That's the extent of his involvement." Dante's expression darkened. "His full name. Why does that matter?" "It matters to me." I hesitated, then relented. "Richard Tanner. But whatever you're thinking, don't. Lily and I are fine without him. Are you?" Dante gestured around us. "Working double shifts, living in an apartment with black mold in the bathroom ceiling, rationing your daughter's medication?" My face burned with shame and anger. "How do you know about the mold? I had your apartment inspected this morning." "You what?" I stood up, chair scraping against the stone terrace. "You had no right—" "Sit down, Emma." His voice was quiet, but carried such authority that I found myself obeying before I could think better of it. "Your landlord will be fixing the mold issue tomorrow, along with the faulty wiring and the window unit that's about to fail completely." I stared at him, speechless. "I don't understand what's happening here." I finally managed. "Why are you doing this? What could you possibly want from me?" Dante's eyes remained fixed on mine, dark and unreadable in the fading light. "What I want," he said finally, "is a solution to a problem." "What problem?" I asked cautiously. He took a sip of his wine before answering. "My position requires certain appearances, stability, family, a respectable front." My stomach tightened as I began to understand where this might be heading. "And what does that have to do with me?" "My associates believe a man in my position should have a wife, children. It creates an image of permanence, of having something to protect." His gaze shifted momentarily to the direction Lily had gone. "Your daughter is charming. You are intelligent, discreet, and clearly devoted to her welfare. These are admirable qualities." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Are you proposing some kind of arrangement?" "I'm proposing a mutually beneficial solution." He leaned forward, his voice dropping slightly. "You need financial security, a better environment for your daughter, access to opportunities she currently lacks. I need a family for appearances." "You want to rent us," I said flatly, anger rising in my chest. "Like props." Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "I want to provide for you. In exchange, you would attend certain functions as my wife, live in my home, and raise your daughter in comfort. It would be a business arrangement, nothing more." "Nothing more?" I echoed incredulously. "You're talking about completely upending our lives. For the better." He countered smoothly. "Lily would have the best education, medical care, opportunities that working double shifts will never afford her." I stood again, this time determined not to be intimidated back into my seat. "This is insane. You don't even know me." "I know enough." His calm was infuriating. "You're 27 years old. You've worked at Valentino's for nearly 6 years. Before that, you completed 2 years at the community college studying business administration, before your pregnancy forced you to withdraw. Your credit is poor due to medical debts, not frivolous spending. You haven't dated since your daughter's father left. You spend what little free time you have volunteering at Lily's preschool." My mouth fell open. "Have you been investigating me?" "Thoroughly." he admitted without a trace of shame. I don't make offers like this lightly, Emma. This isn't an offer. I struggled to find the right word. It's bizarre. People don't do this. People in my world do. He rose to his feet, his height and presence suddenly overwhelming as he moved closer. Think about what I'm offering. No more choosing between rent and medicine. No more double shifts. No more living paycheck to paycheck. At what cost? I asked, holding my ground despite the urge to step back. What would you really expect from me? Discretion. Loyalty. The appearance of a contented family life. His eyes traveled over my face, lingering momentarily on my lips. Nothing that would compromise your dignity or safety. You would be well protected, both of you. Protected from what? A ghost of a smile touched his mouth. You're smarter than that, Emma. You know who I am, what I do. I did know, or at least I suspected, the way Carlos and Mr. Rossi reacted to his name, the immediate compliance from Dr. Abramson's office, the wealth, the security, the quiet power he exuded. Dante Salvatore wasn't just rich. He was dangerous. You're connected to organized crime, I said quietly. I have interests in many businesses, he replied, neither confirming nor denying. Some more regulated than others, and you want to bring my daughter into that world? Are you out of your mind? I want to bring her into a world of privilege and opportunity, he corrected. My other affairs would never touch her. Or you. I shook my head. This is crazy. I need to get Lily and go home. Home to your moldy apartment, to more missed bills and insufficient care for your daughter. His voice hardened. Think beyond your pride, Emma. Think of Lily. Don't you dare use my daughter to manipulate me, I hissed, anger finally overtaking fear. You don't know the first thing about being a parent. Something shuddered in his expression. Perhaps not, but I know what it means to grow up without options. He turned away slightly, gazing out at the city lights. You don't have to answer tonight. Take a week to consider. I don't need a week. The answer is no. He turned back to me, and to my surprise, he looked almost amused. So decisive. Another quality I admire. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. Nevertheless, take this. I didn't reach for it. What is it? He opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. If you reconsider, putting this on will signal your acceptance. And if I don't, then you sell it and use the money for Lily's future. He closed the box and set it on the table. Either way, she benefits. Before I could respond, Valentina appeared with Lily, whose face was lit with excitement. Mommy! I saw sharks and rainbow fish and a fish that looked like Nemo. She rushed toward me, eyes bright. Can we have a fish tank at home? Our apartment is too small for a fish tank, sweetheart, I said automatically, my mind still reeling from Dante's proposition. Not necessarily, Dante interjected, his demeanor transforming instantly to one of casual warmth. Fish tanks come in many sizes. Lily beamed up at him. Mr. Dante, your house is amazing. Valentina showed me the movie room and the library with the ladder that slides, and she said there's even a swimming pool. Perhaps you can see the pool another time, he replied, his eyes meeting mine over her head. If your mother agrees. Can we, Mom? Please? Lily bounced on her toes, oblivious to the tension in the air. We should go home now, Lily. It's getting late. I reached for her hand, deliberately ignoring the velvet box still sitting on the table. But we haven't had dinner yet, she protested. Another time, Dante said before I could respond. I've asked Marco to prepare a package for you to take home. On cue, Marco appeared carrying a large insulated bag that undoubtedly contained enough gourmet food for days. That's not necessary, I began. I insist. Dante's tone made it clear there was no point arguing. Marco will drive you home. As we prepared to leave, Dante knelt once more to Lily's level. It was a pleasure to see you again, Lily. Take good care of your dragon doctor. I will. She smiled shyly. Thank you for showing me your castle. Anytime. His eyes flicked up to mine. It could be your castle, too. The drive home was quiet, Lily drifting to sleep against my side, exhausted from the excitement. My mind raced with the implications of Dante's offer. Part of me was outraged at his presumption, at the cold calculation behind his proposal. Yet another part, The part that had lain awake countless nights worrying about Lily's future, couldn't help but consider the possibilities. No more crushing medical bills. No more substandard housing. A good education for Lily, security, stability. But at what cost? Becoming essentially the property of a man I barely knew, a man who operated in shadows and wielded his power like a weapon. Living a lie. Trading one form of imprisonment for another. When we arrived at our apartment building, Marco carried the sleeping Lily upstairs for me, gently placing her on her bed, before withdrawing with a respectful nod. I noticed he'd also brought up the food, and, to my dismay, the velvet box containing the ring. "Mr. Salvatore said to remind you. 1 week," Marco said quietly before leaving. I spent that night sitting at our small kitchen table, staring at the closed velvet box as if it might bite me. Inside was either our salvation or our downfall. I just couldn't decide which. The next day brought another surprise. My landlord, previously impossible to reach whenever repairs were needed, showed up with a full crew of workers. The mold was removed, the wiring fixed, the ancient air conditioner replaced with a new model. He was nervously polite, nothing like the dismissive slumlord I'd dealt with for years. "Got a call from the owner of the building," he explained, not quite meeting my eyes. Said the whole place needed to be up to code immediately. I didn't need to ask who had made that call. Later that afternoon, a courier delivered an envelope containing private insurance cards for both Lily and me, along with documentation showing all premiums paid for the next year. The cards bore our names but had no connection to Dante that I could see. Each day of that week brought a new demonstration of what life under Dante's protection could mean. A college fund established in Lily's name. Acceptance to the prestigious Oakwood Academy, where tuition started at figures I couldn't even contemplate. A letter from my student loan company indicating my debt had been paid in full. Never once did Dante himself appear or call. It was all handled through proxies. Marco, couriers, anonymous phone calls. The message was clear. This was just a taste of what accepting his offer would bring. By the 5th day, I was no closer to a decision. I picked Lily up from preschool, noticing how her breathing seemed easier with the new medication regimen. "Mommy, when can we visit Mr. Dante's castle again?" she asked as we walked home, her small hand in mine. "I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe never." Her face fell. "But I liked it there, and Valentina said she would teach me to make real Italian cookies next time." "There are lots of nice places in the world," I said carefully. "Mr. Dante's house is just one of them, but he has sharks," she countered with 5-year-old logic. "And he made you smile." I stopped walking. "What do you mean?" She looked up at me with innocent eyes. "You smiled at him. Not your work smile or your tired smile. Your real smile. I haven't seen that smile in a long time." Had I smiled at Dante? I couldn't remember doing so, yet Lily noticed things in her simple, honest way that adults often missed. That night, after tucking Lily in, I finally opened the velvet box. The ring inside was undeniably beautiful, a large oval diamond surrounded by smaller stones, set in platinum. It probably cost more than I would earn in a decade. I slipped it onto my finger experimentally, surprised at how perfectly it fit. The weight of it felt strange, foreign. In the dim light of my bedroom, the diamonds caught what little illumination there was and scattered it like tiny stars. "Mrs. Salvatore," I whispered to the empty room, testing how the words felt on my tongue. "Alien." Absurd. Yet somehow not as repulsive as I wanted them to be. I pulled the ring off quickly and returned it to the box. What was I thinking? I couldn't seriously be considering this insane proposition. On the 6th day, I received a call from a blocked number during my shift at Valentino's. "There's been an incident at Lily's school," a clinical voice informed me. "She's had a severe asthma attack. The ambulance is taking her to St. Mary's now." The world narrowed to a pinpoint of terror. I dropped everything, not even bothering to tell Mr. Rossi I was leaving. By the time I arrived at the hospital, frantic and breathless, I found not the chaotic emergency room scene I expected, but Lily sitting up in a private room, color returned to her cheeks, breathing normally while a nurse checked her vitals. "Mom," she called when she saw me, smiling as if nothing had happened. "She's perfectly fine now," the nurse assured me. Dr. Abramson adjusted her medication and she responded very well. The attack was significant, but we caught it early. Relief flooded through me, followed quickly by confusion. How did you know to call Dr. Abramson? How did she get a private room so quickly? The nurse gave me a knowing look. Mr. Salvatore's instructions were very clear. Lily is to receive priority care regardless of circumstances. I sat heavily in the chair beside Lily's bed, my mind reeling. Even without accepting his offer, Dante was already protecting us. What would happen if I said no? Would this safety net disappear as quickly as it had appeared? Mom, look what Mr. Dante brought me. Lily's voice broke through my thoughts. She held up a plush shark identical to the ones in the tank at his mansion. I froze. Mr. Dante was here? He came right after the ambulance, Lily explained, hugging the stuffed shark. He held my hand until I could breathe better. He told me not to be scared. My gaze snapped to the nurse, who nodded confirmation. Mr. Salvatore was here for about an hour. He only left when we assured him Lily was stable. Where is he now? He had some business to attend to, the nurse replied carefully. But he left instructions to be notified when you arrived. As if summoned by her words, the door opened. I expected Dante, but instead Marco entered, his imposing figure somehow less threatening in the pediatric ward. Ms. Reeves. He nodded respectfully. Mr. Salvatore would like me to drive you and Lily home when she's cleared to leave. That's not necessary, I began automatically. He insists. Marco's tone was polite but firm. He also asked me to give you this. He handed me a sealed envelope. Inside was a note written in elegant masculine handwriting. Emma. Today demonstrated how quickly life can change. Lily is precious. She deserves every advantage, every protection. So do you. My offer stands for one more day. No manipulation, no pressure beyond the simple statement of facts. Just a reminder of what was at stake. Lily's well-being, her future, her very breath. Dr. Abramson discharged Lily an hour later with a new treatment plan and medications. Marco drove us home in silence, carrying Lily upstairs despite my protest that she could walk. After settling her in bed with her new shark, I collapsed on our worn sofa, the decision weighing on me like a physical burden. Could I do this? Could I enter into a marriage of convenience with a man who was almost certainly involved in criminal activities? Could I justify it for Lily's sake? The alternative was returning to our precarious existence, one medical emergency away from financial ruin, living in an apartment that, despite the recent repairs, remained inadequate. Working endless shifts that kept me away from my daughter, watching her opportunities narrow as mine had. I pulled out the velvet box again and stared at the ring. Accepting it would mean security for Lily, but a cage for me, gilded, comfortable, but a cage nonetheless. Rejecting it meant freedom, but continued struggle. What kind of mother would choose her own freedom over her child's welfare? Sleep eluded me that night. By morning, I had made my decision. I dressed carefully in the best clothes I owned, still woefully inadequate for what I was about to do. Lily was sleeping peacefully, her breathing clear and even. Mrs. Hernandez agreed to watch her, asking no questions about my unusual morning errand. I took a taxi to Dante's mansion, the velvet box clutched in my hand. The gates opened as we approached, as if I was expected. Perhaps I was. Marco met me at the door. Mr. Salvatore is in his study. He led me through the sprawling house to a wood-paneled room lined with books. Dante sat behind a massive desk, reading through documents with such focus he didn't immediately notice our arrival. Dressed in another impeccable suit, he looked every inch the powerful businessman. Only the slight shadows under his eyes suggested he might not have slept well either. Ms. Reeves is here, Marco announced, then withdrew, closing the door behind him. Dante looked up, his dark eyes instantly assessing my expression, my posture, the box in my hand. Emma. He stood, coming around the desk. How is Lily? Resting comfortably. I met his gaze directly, thanks to your intervention. He dismissed this with a slight gesture. Dr. Abramson would have treated her regardless. Not in a private room. Not with immediate attention. I took a deep breath. Not with you holding her hand through the worst of it. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise perhaps that Lily had mentioned this detail. Children shouldn't face fear alone. No, I agreed softly. They shouldn't. He gestured to the box in my hand. You've made a decision. I nodded, opening the velvet box to reveal the ring. I have conditions. A slight smile touched his lips. Of course you do. Lily comes first, always. Her safety, her happiness, her future. Those are non-negotiable. Agreed. I won't be involved in any illegal activities, ever. I don't want to know details. I don't want to be complicit. His expression didn't change. Your hands will remain clean. I want to finish my degree. I need something that's mine, some purpose beyond this arrangement. I'll ensure you have that opportunity. I took a steadying breath, and I need to understand what you expect from me. The complete truth. Dante studied me for a long moment. Then he gestured to a seating area near the fireplace. Please. I sat, perching on the edge of a leather chair that probably cost more than everything I owned. Dante sat opposite me, his posture relaxed but alert. My organization has grown significantly over the past 5 years, he began. With that growth comes scrutiny, not just from authorities but from rivals. A man in my position with no attachments is perceived as unpredictable, dangerous. He leaned forward slightly. A family man, however, is seen as stable, rational, less likely to take unnecessary risks. So I'm a stabilizing influence, I said, unable to keep the edge from my voice. A humanizing factor. In part, his gaze was unflinching. But there's more. I've reached a point where I'm expanding into legitimate businesses, real estate, import, export, financial services. These ventures require a certain image. Corporate partners, politicians, bankers, they all prefer to deal with men who reflect their own values, family, tradition, respectability. And what about, I hesitated, heat rising to my cheeks. Physical expectations? His expression remained impassive. This would be a real marriage in legal terms only, Emma. I would never force unwanted attention on you. The arrangement would be for appearances, separate bedrooms, separate lives within these walls. A slight pause. Unless you wished otherwise. I ignored the implication of his last words. And how long would this arrangement last? I proposed 3 years initially. After that, if you wished to leave, you would do so with financial security for both you and Lily. A generous settlement, ownership of a home of your choosing, Lily's education fully funded through university. And if something happened to you? The question slipped out before I could stop it. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. A practical consideration. In that event, you and Lily would be well provided for. My lawyers have already prepared the necessary arrangements. I stared at him. You were that confident I would agree? Not confident. Hopeful. His voice softened almost imperceptibly. I don't make offers I'm not prepared to honor, Emma. Every contingency has been considered. I looked down at the ring still nestled in its velvet box. When would this start? Immediately. A small civil ceremony this week. A more public celebration later, once you're settled. He watched me carefully. Your apartment lease would be terminated. You would move in here with Lily. And my job? Would no longer be necessary, though if you wished to continue working somewhere as part of your studies, arrangements could be made. It all sounded so neat, so organized. A business transaction, nothing more. Yet something in his eyes when he looked at me, something in the way he had rushed to Lily's side during her asthma attack, suggested there might be more to Dante Salvatore than cold calculation. Why me? I asked suddenly. You could have chosen anyone, someone from your world, someone who understands the life you lead. Why a waitress with a child and a mountain of debt? Dante was silent for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Because when I saw you at the restaurant that night, something resonated. You carried yourself with quiet dignity despite your circumstances. You put your daughter above everything else, and when you returned my wallet untouched, you demonstrated a moral compass that is uncommon in my experience. He rose and moved to stand by the window, his back to me. I've known many women, Emma, beautiful women, ambitious women, women born to wealth and privilege. None of them looked at me and saw past the power, the money, The danger. You did. You saw me clearly and weren't afraid to challenge me. He turned back to face me. That's remarkably rare. I stood as well, suddenly needing to be on equal footing. I'm still afraid of you. No, he said softly. You're afraid of what I represent. There's a difference. Before I could respond, he closed the distance between us and gently took the velvet box from my hands. He removed the ring and held it between us. Your final answer, Emma, for Lily. For her future. For the chance at a life better than the one I could provide alone. I extended my left hand. Yes. He slid the ring onto my finger, his touch surprisingly gentle. The weight of the diamond felt like a shackle and a shield all at once. Welcome to the family, Emma Salvatore. The name sent a shiver through me, not entirely unpleasant, but unsettling in its finality. What had I just agreed to? The next 3 days passed in a whirlwind. Lawyers appeared with prenuptial agreements that were far more generous than I had anticipated. My meager belongings were packed and moved while Lily and I stayed in a luxury hotel suite. Shopping trips were arranged for an appropriate wardrobe for both of us. Through it all, Dante remained courteous but distant, handling the logistics through his staff while preparing for our civil ceremony. Only once during those days did I glimpse behind his controlled facade. I'd been reviewing the educational options for Lily when he entered the hotel suite's living room. He stopped abruptly at the sight of me, sitting cross-legged on the floor surrounded by school brochures, my hair piled messily atop my head, wearing sweatpants and a faded t-shirt. For a brief moment, his expression softened into something close to genuine warmth. Then he cleared his throat, and the mask returned. I've arranged for a stylist to assist with preparations for tomorrow, he said. The ceremony will be small, just a judge, my consigliere as witness, and Valentina to watch Lily. Consigliere? I repeated, the unfamiliar term hanging between us. Antonio, my advisor. You'll meet him tomorrow. Dante hesitated, then added, he's the only one who knows the true nature of our arrangement. To everyone else, this is a love match, a whirlwind romance. I nodded, gathering the brochures into a stack. I understand. He turned to leave but paused at the door. The blue one, he said, gesturing to the school brochures. Brookfield Academy. It has the best science program, and Lily mentioned she wants to be a doctor for children with breathing problems. The fact that he had not only spoken with my daughter about her dreams but remembered them in detail caught me off guard. Thank you. I'll consider it. He nodded once and left, leaving me to wonder yet again what kind of man I was about to marry. The civil ceremony the next day was brief and businesslike. I wore a cream-colored dress that had been delivered that morning, understated but elegant. Dante wore another impeccable suit. We exchanged simple gold bands and emotionless vows. Antonio, a gray-haired man with shrewd eyes, watched the proceedings with an expression I couldn't interpret. Valentina held Lily's hand, both of them beaming as if this were a fairy tale come true, instead of a calculated business arrangement. When the judge pronounced us husband and wife, Dante surprised me by leaning in for a kiss. I had expected something perfunctory, a mere formality. Instead, his lips touched mine with unexpected gentleness, lingering just long enough to send a jolt of warmth through me before he pulled away. Congratulations, Mrs. Salvatore, the judge said, smiling benignly, completely unaware of the true nature of what he had just sanctified. As we signed the marriage certificate, I caught Antonio watching me with calculating eyes. He knew this was a sham, yet there was something in his gaze that suggested he was reassessing his judgment of the situation. Of me. That evening, we moved into Dante's mansion, my new home, though it felt nothing like one. Marco drove us from the hotel, Lily chattering excitedly about her new bedroom that Valentina had promised would have a canopy like a princess. I sat silently beside Dante in the back of the car, the weight of my new reality settling over me like a heavy cloak. You're quiet, Dante observed, his voice low enough that Lily, distracted by the passing scenery, couldn't hear. It's been an overwhelming day, I replied, twisting the unfamiliar wedding band on my finger. He covered my restless hand with his own, the unexpected contact startling me. It will get easier, Emma. Would it? I wondered, or would I simply become accustomed to living a lie? The mansion looked different upon our arrival. warmer somehow, with lights glowing in every window. Valentina waited at the door, her weathered face creased in a genuine smile as she bent to embrace Lily. "Welcome home, little one," she said, then straightened to look at me. "And welcome to you, Mrs. Salvatore." The name still felt foreign, an identity I'd borrowed rather than earned. Dante placed his hand lightly on the small of my back, guiding me inside. The gesture seemed possessive, territorial, though his touch remained gentle. "I've prepared a small celebration dinner," Valentina informed us. "Just the family." Family. The word echoed in my mind as we followed her to the dining room. Is that what we were now? A family cobbled together through necessity and calculation? The meal was exquisite. The conversation surprisingly easy as Lily dominated with questions about every aspect of her new home. Dante answered each one patiently, occasionally catching my eye across the table with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. After dinner, Valentina took Lily upstairs for her bath and bedtime routine, a task that had always been mine alone. The loss of this ritual struck me with unexpected force, and I excused myself to follow. "She knows you, Mom," Lily said, as I tucked her into a bed that seemed impossibly large for her small body. "I told her I like bubbles in my bath and stories about brave girls." "Of course you did," I smiled, smoothing her hair away from her forehead. "Are you okay with all this, sweetie? It's a big change." Lily nodded solemnly. "I like it here. Mr. Daddy Dante, said I can have a real fish tank in my room. And he's going to take us to Disney World." I blinked in surprise. "He said that?" "Uh-huh. When I told him I'd never been on an airplane before." She yawned, her eyelids growing heavy. "Mom, are we rich now?" The innocent question caught me off guard. "We're comfortable now. But that's not what matters most, remember? Being kind and smart matters most." She recited sleepily, our long-standing mantra. "And family." "That's right." I kissed her forehead, breathing in her clean, sweet scent. "I love you more than anything in the world, Lilybug." "Love you too, Mom." Her eyes drifted closed. "And I think I might love Daddy Dante too. Is that okay?" My throat tightened. "Of course it's okay. Sleep tight now." I found Dante in his study, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up as he reviewed documents at his desk. He looked up as I entered, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. "Lily's asleep," I said, hovering uncertainly in the doorway. "She mentioned Disney World?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "She expressed interest. I thought it might be a suitable honeymoon destination for the three of us." "You don't have to do that. I'm aware." He set down his pen. "I want to. Children should have experiences beyond their everyday lives. Magic. Wonder." Something flickered in his eyes, things I lacked at her age. The brief vulnerability in his tone caught me by surprise. "What was your childhood like?" He gestured to a chair across from him. An invitation. I sat, curling my legs beneath me in a casual posture that felt strangely intimate in this formal setting. "My father was traditional," Dante said after a moment. "He believed children should be seen rarely and heard never. My mother died when I was 4. Valentina raised me as best she could within the constraints my father allowed." "That sounds lonely." "It was educational." His expression remained neutral. "I learned early that power was the only currency that mattered, and weakness was unforgivable. That's a harsh lesson for a child. The world is harsh, Emma." His eyes met mine. "I learned to control my environment rather than be controlled by it. And now you control everything," I observed. "Including me." A flash of something, anger, hurt, crossed his face before disappearing behind his usual mask. "Our arrangement is voluntary. You can leave at any time." "Can I?" I challenged. "When you've created a life for Lily that I could never provide on my own. When leaving means taking her from comfort and opportunity back to struggle." "That's not really a choice." Dante was silent for a long moment. "What would make this more bearable for you?" The question surprised me with its sincerity. "Honesty," I answered without hesitation. "Don't pretend this is something it isn't. Not when we're alone." "Very well." He nodded once. No pretense behind closed doors. And freedom to make my own decisions about my life, my education, my interests. "Within reason, yes. What does within reason mean?" His expression hardened slightly. It means understanding that your actions reflect on me now. It means recognizing there are enemies who would use you or Lily to get to me. It means accepting certain security protocols for your own protection. I hadn't fully considered this aspect of our arrangement, that by aligning myself with Dante, I might become a target. The thought sent a chill through me. "Are we in danger?" I asked quietly. "Not if you follow the rules." He leaned forward. "Marco and his team will provide security whenever you leave the house. You'll have a dedicated line to reach me in emergencies. Certain locations will be off limits. Lily's school has been thoroughly vetted." The reality of what I'd agreed to crashed over me anew. This wasn't just about appearances or financial security. I'd tied myself and my daughter to a man whose very existence invited threat. "I've made a mistake," I whispered, more to myself than to him. Dante rose from his desk and crossed to kneel before my chair, a gesture so unexpected it rendered me speechless. He took my hands in his grip firm, but not confining. "Listen carefully, Emma. I protect what's mine. Nothing, absolutely nothing, will happen to you or Lily while you're under my roof, under my name. I've eliminated threats for far less important reasons than your safety." The calm certainty in his voice was both reassuring and terrifying. This man had killed before. I could see it in his eyes, hear it in the casual way he referenced eliminating threats. Yet here he was, making me a promise I somehow knew he would keep at any cost. "I need time," I said finally, "to adjust, to figure out who Emma Salvatore is supposed to be." He released my hands and stood. "Time you have. We'll make our first public appearance next weekend. A charity gala. Until then, settle in, explore your new home, enroll Lily in school." He paused. "And perhaps consider what you'd like to study when you return to university." The casual way he referenced this dream, one I'd set aside years ago out of necessity, caught me off guard. I'd thought about finishing my business degree, maybe with a focus on nonprofit management. He raised an eyebrow. "An interesting choice. I've been on the receiving end of charity," I explained. "I know how dehumanizing it can feel. I'd like to change that. Create programs that offer dignity along with assistance." Something like respect flickered in his eyes. "I have connections at several universities. When you're ready, say the word." The conversation had taken an unexpected turn, veering into territory that felt almost normal. A husband and wife discussing future plans. The thought unsettled me. "I should get some rest," I said, rising from the chair. "Which room is mine?" "The East Wing Master Suite." He moved back behind his desk, a subtle repositioning of boundaries between us. "Your things have been unpacked. Mine is in the West Wing, connected by a shared sitting room, but with separate entrances for privacy." The arrangement confirmed what he'd promised. This would be a marriage in name only. Our intimate lives kept carefully separated. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt a strange hollow sensation I couldn't quite identify. "Good night then, Dante. Good night, Emma." And I found my way to the East Wing, where a suite larger than my entire former apartment awaited. The closet had been filled with clothes I'd never seen before, designer pieces in exactly my size. The bathroom gleamed with marble and crystal. The bed was enormous, draped in luxurious linens that probably cost more than I'd made in a month at Valentino's. I changed into silk pajamas I found in a drawer and slid between the sheets, certain I wouldn't sleep. Yet exhaustion claimed me almost immediately, pulling me into dreams filled with dark eyes and gilded cages. The days that followed established a new rhythm to our lives. Lily started at Brookfield Academy, falling in love with the science lab and the expansive playground. I enrolled in online courses to complete my degree, setting up a study area in the sunny conservatory that quickly became my favorite place in the mansion. Dante maintained his usual schedule, leaving early for his downtown office and returning in time for dinner, which we ate together as a family each evening. To my surprise, Dante was different with Lily than he was with anyone else. His usual cool reserve melted away when she chattered about her day, or showed him art projects from school. He listened to her with genuine interest, remembering details about her friends and teachers that even I sometimes forgot. When she asked questions, he answered with patience and respect, never dismissing her curiosity as childish. One evening, a week after our wedding, I came across them in the library. Lily was curled in Dante's lap as he read to her from a worn copy of The Secret Garden. His deep voice changed subtly for each character, bringing the story to life in a way that had Lily completely entranced. Neither noticed me watching from the doorway, witnessing this tableau of domestic harmony that felt both artificial and strangely authentic. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, I found Dante in our shared sitting room, a glass of whiskey in his hand as he stared out at the city lights. "You're good with her," I said, stepping into the room. Better than I expected. He turned, surprise momentarily visible on his face, before his features settled back into their usual composed lines. "Children are honest. They respond to authenticity. Is that what you're showing her? Authenticity?" I moved closer, emboldened by the quiet intimacy of the hour. Because the man who reads stories and creates origami flowers seems very different from the man who eliminates threats. His jaw tightened. "We all contain multitudes, Emma. Even you." "What does that mean?" "It means the woman who returns a stranger's wallet intact is also the woman who agreed to marry that stranger for financial security." His gaze was penetrating. "We all make compromises." The observation stung because it contained truth. "I did it for Lily. I know." His voice softened slightly. "Just as I agreed to this arrangement for reasons beyond mere appearances." My pulse quickened. "What reasons?" He took a sip of his whiskey, his dark eyes never leaving mine. "Perhaps I'm tired of an empty house. Perhaps I recognize something in you, a strength, a resolve, that I admire. Or perhaps—" He set down his glass. "Perhaps I simply wanted you from the moment I saw you at Valentino's. And this was the only way I could imagine having you in my life." The admission hung in the air between us, charged with implications I wasn't prepared to face. "This isn't real, Dante. We agreed. The circumstances may be manufactured," he conceded, stepping closer. "But that doesn't mean everything that follows must be false." He was close enough now that I could smell his cologne, could see the faint shadow of stubble along his jaw. My body responded to his proximity in ways my mind didn't want to acknowledge. "I should go to bed," I said, my voice embarrassingly unsteady. "Of course." He stepped back immediately, respecting the boundary I'd established. "The gala is tomorrow evening. Your dress has been delivered. Valentina will help with any preparations you need." I nodded, relieved and oddly disappointed by his retreat. "Good night, Dante. Sweet dreams, Emma." The charity gala marked our first public appearance as husband and wife. My dress was a deep burgundy creation that made me look like a stranger to myself. Elegant, sophisticated, worthy of standing beside a man like Dante Salvatore. He wore a tuxedo that seemed molded to his powerful frame, the picture of affluent authority. "Remember," he murmured as our car approached the venue, "these people will be watching our every interaction, looking for weakness, for inconsistency." "I understand." I straightened my shoulders, slipping into the role I'd agreed to play. "I won't embarrass you," his hand covered mine. "That's not my concern. These vultures will circle you, Emma. They'll smile while they assess your value, your background, your vulnerabilities. Trust no one. Say little. Stay close to me." The warning should have frightened me. Instead, it ignited a stubborn determination to exceed expectations, to prove myself equal to this challenge. As we entered the glittering ballroom, Dante's hand at the small of my back, I felt the weight of 100 curious gazes. He leaned down, his lips brushing my ear in what would appear to observers as an affectionate gesture. "Remember who you are now," he whispered. "You're a Salvatore. You bow to no one." With those words echoing in my mind, I stepped forward into my new life, head high, gripped tight on my husband's arm, ready to face whatever came next. Not just as Dante's convenience, but as his equal. Because in that moment, I realized the truth that would ultimately transform our arrangement into something neither of us had anticipated. Power wasn't just Dante's to wield. As his wife, even in name only, I now possessed a form of it too, and I intended to use it. 6 months later, I stood in the doorway of Lily's bedroom, watching as Dante sat at the edge of her bed, listening intently to her prayers. This had become their nightly ritual, one I was never invited to join, but was permitted to observe from a distance. "And thank you for my new baby brother or sister," Lily finished, her hands clasped earnestly before her. "Even though Mom says it's too early to know if it's a boy or girl." My hand drifted unconsciously to my still flat stomach, the newest complication in our already complex arrangement. The pregnancy had been unplanned, the result of a single night when pretense had given way to genuine desire, when the lines between our public facade and private reality had blurred beyond recognition. Dante's reaction to the news had been unexpected. Not anger or calculation, but a quiet joy that transformed his usually guarded features. He'd knelt before me, pressed his lips to my abdomen, and whispered something in Italian I couldn't understand, but felt deeply nonetheless. As he kissed Lily goodnight and rose from her bedside, our eyes met across the room. The mask he wore for the rest of the world had long since vanished when we were alone together. In its place was something I'd never expected to find in this marriage of convenience, something that looked remarkably like love. He crossed to my side, one hand coming to rest protectively over mine on my stomach. "You should rest," he said softly. "Both of you. In a minute." I leaned into him slightly, no longer afraid of the contact. I was just thinking about how much has changed. "Regrets?" he asked, a hint of vulnerability in the question. I shook my head. "No. Strange as it seems, I've found more freedom in this gilded cage than I ever had outside it." His arm slipped around my waist. "It was never meant to be a cage, Emma." "I know that now." I turned to face him fully. It was a door, one I was afraid to walk through until I had no choice. Dante's expression softened as he brushed a strand of hair from my face. "And now? Now I choose this. Us. Whatever comes next." I rose on tiptoe to press my lips to his, a gesture that had once been performance but now held meaning deeper than I could express. "I choose you, Dante Salvatore." His arms tightened around me, holding me as if I were something precious. "You saved me," he murmured against my hair, "from a life of shadows and cold power." "And you saved us," I replied, thinking of Lily sleeping peacefully, of the child growing inside me, of the woman I'd become. Stronger, more confident, no longer defined by struggle and fear. I think that makes us even. As we walked hand in hand to our now shared bedroom, I marveled at the unexpected journey that had brought me here. What had begun as a desperate bargain had transformed into something authentic and profound. A family built not from obligation, but from growing love. A partnership forged in the fire of challenge and unexpected connection. The wallet that had started it all sat in a shadow box on Dante's desk, a reminder of the twist of fate that had changed everything. Sometimes the most significant moments in life arrive disguised as small choices, ordinary acts that set in motion extraordinary changes. I had called a dangerous man to return his wallet, unaware my life was about to change. Now, with his ring on my finger and his child beneath my heart, I wouldn't change a single step of the path that had led me here, to a happiness I never imagined could be mine.